Did you know that while you were sleeping last night, the Senate just made changes to Trump's big beautiful bill that could literally cost you thousands of dollars next year? I'm talking about surprise twists that nobody saw coming. And if you're collecting Social Security, on Medicaid, or even just trying to deduct your property taxes, you need to hear this right now, because what they're not telling you in the mainstream media could be the difference between keeping more money in your pocket or watching it disappear to Uncle Sam. If you want to stay ahead of these financial changes that could hit your wallet hard, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because I break down these complex political moves into plain English so you can protect your money and make informed decisions about your financial future. So here's what's happening right now behind closed doors in Washington. And trust me, this is going to shock you. Remember when Trump promised that his tax cuts would make life easier for working families? Well, the Senate just threw some major curveballs into that plan. And some of these changes are going to hurt more than help, depending on where you live and how much money you make. The original House version of this bill was already controversial, but what the Senate just did makes it even more complicated. And frankly, some of these moves seem designed to help certain groups while quietly taking money away from others. Let's start with the Social Security bombshell that has seniors across America either celebrating or panicking depending on their situation. The Senate version of Trump's bill includes a provision that would reduce federal income taxes on Social Security benefits, but only if your total income falls under a specific threshold. Now you might be thinking, wait, doesn't that sound like good news? Well, yes and no. And here's where it gets tricky. If you're a retiree living primarily on Social Security with very little other income, this could indeed put more money back in your pocket each month. But if you're one of those retirees who worked hard, saved money, and have additional income from investments, pensions, or part-time work, you might find yourself in a higher income bracket that disqualifies you from this benefit entirely. What's really shocking is how they're calculating these thresholds, and the numbers they're using seem almost designed to create winners and losers rather than provide broad relief. Are you starting to see how this isn't as simple as just helping seniors? The devil is always in the details with these bills, and the details here are going to determine whether you come out ahead or get left behind. But wait, there's more to this Social Security story that's going to blow your mind. The Senate also included a special deduction bump for people over 65, adding an extra $6,000 per person that seniors can deduct from their taxes. Sounds great, right? Well, hold on, because there's a massive catch that they buried deep in the fine print. This deduction starts shrinking as your income goes up, and for many middle-class retirees, it could disappear entirely. So let me ask you this. Do you think it's fair that a senior who worked their whole life and saved money gets penalized while someone who didn't save gets rewarded? This is the kind of policy that sounds good in a headline but creates real problems for real people. Now let's talk about the Medicaid changes that have healthcare advocates and state governors absolutely freaking out right now. The Senate's version goes way further than what the House originally proposed. And if you or someone in your family relies on Medicaid, you need to pay close attention, because these changes could literally be life or death. The new work requirements aren't just about having a job. They're about proving you have a job with mountains of paperwork, regular check-ins, and strict deadlines that if you miss even once, you could lose your healthcare coverage entirely. Think about this for a second. If you're a parent working 2 part-time jobs just to make ends meet, when exactly are you supposed to find time to navigate all this bureaucratic nonsense? And what happens if you get sick and can't work for a few weeks? Under these new rules, you could lose your Medicaid coverage right when you need it most. The Senate is essentially saying that if you can't jump through all their hoops perfectly, you don't deserve healthcare. And that's a terrifying precedent that goes way beyond just saving government money. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Rural hospitals, which are already struggling to stay open, are warning that these Medicaid cuts could force them to close their doors permanently. What good does it do to have slightly lower taxes if the hospital in your small town shuts down because they can't afford to operate? Are we really willing to sacrifice healthcare access for tax cuts that might not even benefit the people who need hospitals the most? Speaking of tax cuts, let's dive into the property tax deduction changes that are going to hit homeowners in high-tax states like a freight train. The Senate wants to keep the SALT deduction cap at just $10,000, which means if you live in places like California, New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut, you're going to get hammered. If you're paying $15,000, $20,000, or $30,000 a year in state and local taxes, you can only deduct $10,000 of that on your federal return, leaving you paying federal taxes on money you never actually got to keep. Now I want you to think about this carefully. Is it fair that someone living in a high-cost, high-tax state gets penalized for living there, especially when those states often send more tax money to Washington than they get back. This isn't just about rich people in mansions. This affects middle-class families who bought homes when prices were lower and now find themselves stuck with property tax bills they can barely afford. What message does this send about federalism and the idea that states should be able to set their own tax policies? Here's something that might surprise you though. While the Senate is cutting healthcare and capping property tax deductions, they're also throwing some interesting bones to specific groups of workers. The bill includes provisions that would make tips and overtime pay tax-free up to certain limits for several years. If you're a server, bartender, or someone who regularly works overtime, this could mean significantly more take-home pay. But here's the catch that nobody's talking about. You'll need to maintain perfect records to prove these amounts are legitimate, and if you mess up the paperwork, you could face serious penalties. There's also a provision bringing back the car loan interest deduction up to $10,000, which we haven't seen in years, for families who need to finance a vehicle. This could provide real relief, but it also raises the question of whether we should be encouraging more debt through the tax code. Are we solving problems or just creating new ones? The environmental implications of this bill are also worth considering because the Senate is allowing green energy tax credits to continue longer than the House wanted. This means jobs in solar and wind energy might stick around in your community, but it also means we're spending taxpayer money on subsidies that some people think the market should handle on its own. Where do you stand on using tax policy to promote specific industries? Now here's the part that should worry everyone regardless of their political views. Even with all these cuts and changes, the Congressional Budget Office estimates this bill will add about $2.5 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. We're essentially borrowing money from future generations to pay for tax cuts today. Is that responsible fiscal policy? Or are we just kicking the can down the road for our kids and grandkids to deal with? The reality is that this bill creates a complex web of winners and losers, and whether you come out ahead depends entirely on your specific situation, your income level, where you live, your age, your healthcare needs, and your family situation all determine how these changes will affect your bottom line. The Senate's version doesn't match the House bill line by line, which means we're probably going to see more changes, more negotiations, and more uncertainty before anything becomes final. What's your take on all this? Do you think these changes will help or hurt your family's financial situation? Drop a comment below and let me know which of these provisions would affect you the most. And if this breakdown helped clarify some of the confusion around this complicated bill, please hit that like button. Share this video with friends and family who might benefit from understanding these changes. And make sure you're subscribed because there's definitely more to come as this story develops. The political deals are happening behind closed doors right now, and I'll be here to break down whatever comes next in terms you can actually understand.